All right, guys, we're going to review how to substitute in a value for a letter. Some number for a variable into an expression, and how to use order of operations to evaluate or simplify, get one number from that expression. So some of you have already done this in your math classes. If you want to use this as a framework and check your answers, that's awesome. If you want to try to do it independently and then check, that's great. Or if you want to follow along also, you can do whatever fits best for you. So we're going to start looking at just 3a. As a reminder, when 3 and a are right next to each other, or would be what we would call a coefficient and a variable are right next to each other, they are multiplying. So that's very important to remember that they are multiplying next to each other. So if you were to substitute in, say we said a equals 2, or let's actually say -2. When you put that in, that letter A in, we're not saying that this is 3 minus 2, right? That would not be what we are doing. We're saying this is 3 times, in parentheses, anytime we substitute a value in for a letter, we're going to put in parentheses, times -2. So they are multiplying. So 3 times -2 would be -6. Just to clarify and make sure that we know that before we go forward. All right, so at the top I do have the sleepy old man for you. I've noticed lately that a lot of us are having a hard time remembering the multiplication and division rules when we have negatives and positives mixed in together. So I use a sleepy old man to determine what a negative times a positive is. So say we had 3 times -7. We're going to multiply the numbers the same exact way we would normally, like 3 times 7 is 21. But we're going to use our sleepy old man. So the 3 is a positive 3, so we're going to shade in our positive or cancel out our positive. And then the -7 is a negative, so we're going to cover that one up. And then the sign that's left uncovered, this negative, is going to be the sign of my answer. Okay, so a positive times a negative is a negative. If we had covered up, say it was a negative times a negative, we had covered up the negative and the negative, it would have been a positive. So just a little strategy if you want to use that. Alrighty, so step 1, when we're evaluating expressions, it says substitute the value for the variable. Do not forget to put, and this would be our good old parentheses, around the substituted value. Step 2 says that we are going to use order of operations to simplify the expression. All right, so let's take a look at number 1, 3a plus 4 when a equals -7. So again, when we have that a, we're just replacing it with the a, that is -7. So we go 3, and all we're going to do is, instead of writing an a, we're going to put our parentheses and plug in that number. So we're going to plug in -7 plus 4. From here, you really can just use order of operations to simplify. So if we have 3 times -7, again, that's a positive times a negative. I didn't realize that he has the same exact problem there. So we're going to have -21 plus 4. So if you do that in your calculator, see what you get. You should get -17. All right, if you need to pause the video to write, or if you want to solve on your own, go for it. So number 2 is JKL. So all of those JKLs are multiplying with each other. So we're literally going to have to just plug in all of these values. So J was 2, K was -3, and L was 4. So we're multiplying 2 times -3 times -4. So we'll go from left to right. 2 times -3 is going to give me -6. I'll bring down our 4. And what is a -6 times 4? It's a -24. All right, again, if you need to pause it, feel free. I'm going to go on to number 3. We have x to the 3rd power minus 6 times y. So let's see, we're going to plug in -2 still in parentheses. Is very important, because remember last week we talked about the difference between -2 to the 3rd power in parentheses and then just -2 to the 3rd power. They're different, okay? So we have -2 to the 3rd power minus 6 times y. So 6 in parentheses, or not 6 in parentheses, 6 times 10 in parentheses, because 10 equals y. All right, so let's do our exponents first. When we have -2 to the 3rd power, we have -2 times negative 2. Notice I'm writing it out every single time because when it's negative 2 in parentheses to the third power, you have to write it out exactly as you see it, the number of times the exponent says. Minus 6 times 10. So I'm going to do negative 2 times negative 2 first, which is 4, times another negative 2, minus 6 times 10. So then we have 4 times negative 2. A positive times a negative is a negative. Minus 6 times 10 is 60. Okay, so when I go straight across, negative 8 minus 6, they're both negative, so we're going to build for the same team. So we have negative 86, and that's our final answer. All right, I'm actually just going to do 4 and 6 with you, and I'm going to have you do 5 and 7, and then all the you tries on your own, since you started this in math already. But there are a few things I want to go over in 4 and 6. So 4, again, we have an exponent, and you see p squared. P is negative 3. We want to make sure that we're putting that negative 3 in parentheses. So negative 3 squared minus, okay, now look here, a negative 5. So we have that double negative, or subtracting a negative, which actually turns into adding. So let's see, we have negative 3 times negative 3 for negative 3 squared. Again, it's in parentheses, so we write it out exactly as we see it. We got to keep it in parentheses. Minus a negative, 5. So negative 3 times negative 3, a negative times a negative, a sleepy old man, is, so we do negative times a negative is a positive. So we have a positive 9 minus a negative 5. Now this is the part that I love, because 2 negatives make a positive. 2 negatives, we're subtracting a negative, they actually make a positive. So we have 9 plus 5, which is nice and easy, 14. Okay? All right, and looking at number 6, because you're going to do 5 and 7 on your own, I just wanted to point out, do you see that there is a negative in front of the R? So make sure, when you see that, you leave the negative on the outside and then plug in your, whatever your R is, and in this case it is a negative 8. And we'll plug in our 7 plus the square root of 81, which you probably already know. But okay, so again, these two negatives, just like in the last problem, so we have a negative on the outside and a negative on the inside. Guess what that turns into? It turns into a positive. So we're going to have negative 8 is actually just 8 times 7 plus the square root of 81. So what is 8 times 7? So 8 times 7 will give me 56 plus square root of 81 is 9. And 56 plus 9 is 65. And that's my final answer. So what I would like you to do is go ahead and try number 5. You're just plugging in 2 and 4. Number 7. And then you definitely have to go and do the 3 U tries, as well as the 3 U tries that are just exponent based. Okay? When you finish with this, you're going to obviously get it checked, and then you can go into the back, which is an activity with a dice and substituting in the number that you roll. All right, so good luck and keep up the good work.